Good evening and welcome to Mortgage Coffee Talk. My name is Tahir Qureshi. I'm your host. I'm a licensed principal mortgage broker and founder of Canada Express Mortgage Inc. Today we're going to talk about money laundering and financial transaction in real estate, our obligation as a real estate professional and mortgage professional, as well as consumers when they are seeking mortgage or purchasing a property to get refinancing. You might have heard about Money Laundering and Terrorist Financing Act. This is the act when we identify a client, when we meet a client and we look for IDs. In real estate, you know that I'm also a real estate broker of record for City Pro Realty Inc. brokerage. So I can talk about both subjects. So money laundering and terror financing act is about identifying potential money laundering and using property or financial resources for terrorist financing. The FinTrack, which is a Financial Transaction and Report Analysis Center of Canada, it's called FinTrack, is Canada's intelligence unit. All mortgage brokers, lenders, when they suspect a transaction is not arm's length, if they suspect some wrongdoing, we are obligated to report to FinTrack as a suspected transactions. So when we are buying a property, we identify it. When you go to the bank, you open your account, you give a copy of the driving license to verify you are the person. As a realtor, we go and look at land registry, geo warehouse to make sure you are the one who's owned that property. Or if you're buying it, we have various ways of verifying it, especially in mortgage financing. When if you are applying, we have to verify your identity. We have to verify your income, source of income. So, as you know, when money is laundered around, and there are approximately 590 billion to 1.5 trillion dollar money laundering happening every year around the world. Because two things happens. When people are freely, without declaring a source of income, buying and selling property, it creates a hype in real estate industry. And then average Canadian has difficulty because those investors who have the money and they don't even pay taxes on it. There's a good example of that. If you go to fintrack.ca, you can find a video about it. So what happened is when people start competing, it destabilizes the economy because it goes parallel with the government. Government, when people are working on a business, doing business, they are paying taxes. Whereas the money that come through laundering process, I explained you what are these possibilities, then they are not paying taxes and they're investing money in real estate. Therefore, prices of the property will go up. And also it enhances the criminal because they get the money, they get the property, they flip it again. and they compete with a genuine fellow Canadian who wants to buy the properties. So it's a big threat to the economy. And also criminal get the money to make more money. I don't pay taxes. So FinTrack put together a guide. What are the indicators? What amounts to a mortgage, a money laundering? When you're buying a house or getting a mortgage or properties there. So I downloaded Financial Transaction Report Analysis Center, Canada, a operational manual, the guidelines. They tell you what it takes, where are the money suspected of. Again, when you are exploiting in real estate transactions because you can give more money if you don't pay taxes and you have ill-gotten money. You pay more money for the property. You don't even see the property, you buy them. Or you buy the property, you flip it. I'm giving you some example. So FinTrack tracks. Now, if somebody buys the cash money, they give you money cash to buy a property, or they get a bank draft to put the money, but there's no track of the money, where this money came from for the deposit. So basically, you have people who have lots of money, but they're not paying income taxes. They're not declaring source of income. And that falls into criminal activity. And this criminal element of money laundering is international. Over 10 years period, there was mention about the report 2003 to 13. There were only 127 reports. They were reported suspected transaction out of 5 million deals in real estate. Only 127 were reported. So builder, developers, the money laundering people who they will invest money in building and development. So once they cancel for example, they bought a property and then they cancel the deal and they take the money, they give them cash and they get this check from real estate broker, for example. So this is why they are whitening their money. So it's very important to report those transactions. So I went through the list of this they provided. I'm going to go through the indicators of money laundering that create a suspicion. There are indicators that you are going to report. First is value. The client negotiates a purchase for the market value or above. If the market value is 1 million and he pays 1.2 million, and then he says documents are created for 1.2 and the value is 1 million, so you are exaggerating the value to get the money back from the bank. Loan mortgage amount above the market value of the property. Let's say the market value of the property is $1 million. And you are getting a mortgage more than $1 million. So that is an indication that something is fishy, because the price that is being offered and the parties who are involved, and you're coming to a broker or to the lender for financing, these are indicators that FinTrack has advised us. Is a public information available. Anonymity. Client purchased property in someone else's name. That's also an indicator. If you buy property somebody else's name and come to you for financing, that's an indicator there is something is wrong, you are suspicious about it. And then you have to moment you feel suspicious, you have to report to FinTrack. Then client inadequately explain last minute substitution of the purchase party. So sometime they negotiate an agreement of purchase and sale, and last minute they come and say, okay, we need to change the buyer. This is not about assignment. It is changing a buyer, which could be part of the assignment. So all of a sudden, some third person comes in and put their name on the APS. That's an indicator there's something wrong, need to be reviewed. Sometimes a client pay a deposit through using a third party. That's also indication that the client itself is not paying the money, somebody else is paying the money. So that means that's an indication that some other person is involved, and you need to suspect that. Transaction is completed anonymously, in collusion or in partnership with through lawyer or notary. Deposits are made into lawyers or notary's trust account. So funds are, without declaring the name of the person, transaction is completed. No realtor, no mortgage agent, or nobody's involved. Sometimes, if you do not involve a lawyer or real estate broker, lending institution will no longer give mortgages because they want to appraise the value of the property, make sure that it is on MLS, on a multi-listing system. So it's a competitively priced and is publicly negotiated because it's in the public domain. So most of the bank and lender will not give you financing if you are not, your property is not listed in the financing. And that's why they pay cash. So sometimes the fraud happens. It's an indication that a company purchased a real estate has a very complex ownership structure. So corporation can buy the property, is very complex structure, which gives you indication, hey, really, who are the real buyers of the property? That's an indicator when somebody comes to you for financing or even representing a realtor. Company or the company director has no email addresses, phone number, home number, or business addresses, company logo, contact information. So what they're saying is, if you have a company, you have no email, you have no contact information, you have no address, no home address, no contact information, then something is wrong. You have to put a thinking cap to see what's going on here, whether it's buying a property or asking for a mortgage. The client refuses to provide own name on documents or use different names on offer to purchase, close document, and deposit receipt. So if the client is refusing to give the name and IDs, should you be doing this transaction? No. So it's very, very important for you. And that is why we have in Korea, we have a form that we use to identify a client. It's called Individual Identification Information Record, URIA Form 630. We'll go through that a little bit later. But these are the where we're identifying where the possibility of mortgage fraud or real estate fraud could happen. Sometimes the client will not he wants to sign by faxing the documents. After coronavirus, we start using very aggressively Zoom and AuthentiSign. All realtors, they use AuthentiSign, and you go through Zoom to make sure you explain the document, then you send them for signature. AuthentiSign through their email they provide to you. Then is you have a confirmation that the person who has asked for mortgage or real estate application for buying a property or getting application for mortgage, you have verified it. Now, so client uses mailbox for general delivery address where other options are available. Let's assume your client has a driving license. He's showing you driving license, for example, but he said, no, send my paper to my mailbox. Why not street address? That's why in our real estate transaction, the real estate address play a significant role. All transactions are tracked by address because there's always going to be one address. So then you can have a very thinking cap that if this person is not providing me a proper address for delivery of notice or delivery of document, or document that he's presenting doesn't match, passport has a different address, license has a different address, and maybe driver, you look at the driver, look at the person's face, say, look like to me he's very young, but the license looks a little bit older, or is older but his date is no good. So you feel suspicious about it. Is this a genuine ID? Or then you need to go more than that to look for more IDs to make sure that this is the same person. Now, sometimes the property, the seller, a buyer, sells the property, a month or 2 months or very short time later, buy back the property. So that indicates something is wrong here, suspicious about it. You need to further check that out. Why he sold the property and 2 months later, a month later, or 3 months later, he buying back. Maybe he's dealing with some kind of mortgage fraud. So you have to check that. These are indicators provided by FinTrack. I will share with you the address. I'm going to go after I finish. I'll take you to their website and then we'll show you where you can find this information. Or sometimes you have successive buying and selling transaction of the same real estate. You're buying and selling same property or similar to 2-3 property, buying and selling again and again. That creates suspicion. What's going on? As a licensed real estate professional or licensed mortgage broker, we have obligation to check this out and authenticate to make sure that is not the case. So sometimes a buyer client wants to close very immediately. And normal, as you know, it takes some time, 30, 60 days normal in closing a deal, getting the mortgage approved and everything. So what is the rush? You have to ask that. It's a part of your ID. We're going to talk about the ID form later on when you're doing real estate. And in mortgage is also know your client. It's the same thing that you need to know who your clients are, how to verify their identity and find out what their incomes are, what their desires are, what is the suitability is for them, why they're buying the property, can they afford it or not, and you are going through the process. And this is why these are indicators of potential problem, but not actual problem. But if you feel that you suspect that based on your judgment, then you have to call FinTrack and report them. And I give you their number and their website when I finish the program. So now the other indication is that the buyer who has lots of money, he has no interest in the characteristic of the property. He'd spend no effort in negotiating the price or risk or commission he has to pay to real estate or details of the property, but offer a high bid price to more than the current value or industry value dictates. That's an indication. If somebody didn't even care about the characteristic of the property, he doesn't care what risk involved, maybe this property has some problem, or details of the offer, and he give a big offer, and that is more than the market value, that's an indication that something is there suspicious about it, and you verify it. When somebody say, I want a mortgage, for example, in this case, how much money you have? Where is your source of income? So you remember, we have to have source of income. We have to have a good credibility. We have a report. We have a document tax return, T4s, T4As, or whatever. You file to CRA, you declare your income. Normally, it would take 2 years. So in this case, 18 and 19, plus note of assessment from CRA. If the income doesn't match with the note of assessment, unless somebody got a job, a new job later on, and you can verify that, it's a problem. Where the deposit came from? Who gave you the deposit? Is it your saving? Do you have assets? Do you have a cash sitting in a saving bank, RSP, or safety deposit for accounts, or stock investment? Or if your family gave you the money, then you must have a money trail. Where it originated, who sold it, who sent the money to you, and then when you receive it, you have a piece of paper from the bank, the money was transferred through a proper channel, and the person in the family, mostly blood relation, parents, brother and sisters, they are able to help each other, wife and husband, they can help each other to transfer funds. So this is very, very important that you have a track of the money. And sometime risk assessment department will ask you where this money came from, provide us some kind of a reconfirmation that from the bank who sent the money, the person who sent the money has a reliable income and source. So they track that. That is the responsibility of the FinTrack. They track all transactions 10,000 and up. And when you feel suspicious about it, and you report them, and they work with the law enforcement agencies to track money, where it originated, how it was sent out of Canada, or is coming from out of Canada into the Canadian bank system, and how the trail of money has been established. There was a recent case that you see a video on FinTrack where somebody, Canadian company, they use A, B, C, 3 companies, and took them several years to money laundered 10 million Canadian dollars. It's a very good video. I'm going to provide you reference so you can go and visit and download and see that, how they track it. So if you are bringing in money, make sure you have tracking. That means you have a piece of paper that the money you're bringing is legitimate money and that you're beginning. Now, sometime you take the mortgage and all of a sudden you want to pay out the mortgage. So they want to know accelerated repayment loan mortgage shortly after deal is completed. So the moment you got the mortgage, everything done, and you pay out the mortgage, you pay the penalty. Where this money came from all of a sudden? And the government will be tracking it if it's coming through the system, to the bank. So any bank that received 10,000 and more money, they have to report to FinTrack. Sometimes there is an inconsistency in the mortgage or loan agreement. Incorrect information or inconsistent information that create a suspicion that something is wrong. Names are not matching, last names are not matching, spelling of the names are different. And this is an indicator. This is provided by FinTrack. As I mentioned that the FinTrack is a federal agency. It's called Financial Transaction and Report Analysis Center of Canada. FinTrack is Canada's financial intelligence unit. Their mandate is to facilitate detection, prevention, and deterrence of money laundering and the financing of terrorist activities while ensuring the protection of personal information under its control. Because they have access to all our information. They are trying to protect us. Because if money laundering is continuously coming into the country, first of all, government of Canada is not generating revenue. Because of that, you and me as a law-abiding citizen who are paying taxes, we are burdened to pay more taxes because revenue has been lost because of money laundering. So it's our civic duty to report them when we feel someone is suspicious of these indicators that I'm discussing. There are a few more before I go to other topic. The condition in the loan agreement are unusual. For example, no collateral was used. Can you believe it? You got a mortgage or a loan against a property, but the property is not as a collateral. That means for a property, but no collateral was used. You were suspicious then. That raised your eyebrows. What's going on? How come a mortgage is being arranged without any collateral for a lender or bank? Bank is also lender. So that will create a suspicion, an indicator. And or sometimes they do not reference collateral in a loan agreement. That's an indication. Let's say they did the collateral, but they didn't reference it in a loan agreement. So that will create no collateral was required, or the complex nature of the loan scheme could not be justified. So there are always possibilities of wrongdoing. These are the indicators. Company lending the money for the purchase of real estate, possibly an offshore company, has no direct relation with the borrower. So an offshore company lend the money, no relationship with the buyer, and buys the property in a borrower's name. So borrower borrow the money, property owned by an offshore company. So that will give you indication that something is wrong. So for consumer, it's very important for you when you are going to a mortgage broker for seeking a mortgage, or you're going to real estate professional to purchase a home, you are prepared to identify yourself, show your income, do the documentation, You know the property information. You have your IDs with you. You have a down payment. You have bank statement. You have a T4. You have a notice of assessment. You have an employment letter. You have a pay stub. If you're a businessman, you have a financial statement. You have a bank can provide a financial certified audited financial statement. You can ID where you live, where you work, where the business is, so it can be verified. These are indicators where something could be suspicious about it. Company lending money for purchase. Okay. Now invoices for real or phantom large remodeling or renovation are paid with cash. You know, very traditionally, there's lots of people, they use renovators to do the renovation and they pay cash. That's against the law. You are violating a law. You are supposed to get an invoice, pay HST on it. Because if somebody doing a cash deal, they're not going to give you an invoice. You are breaking the law. He's breaking the law. And if you're going to renovate the property and list it for sale on MLS, and somehow somebody complain about it, and CRA come after you, then you're going to prove. You want to sell the house, you want to deduct all the expenses, you can't. You paid cash for it. You lost that leverage. Also, you're liable for HST that you're supposed to pay to CRA plus the penalty. And the person who did the job without sending an invoice is also guilty. It's a criminal act not to pay HST when you're doing construction. So both of you are putting yourself on the risk. Whereas there could be some cost you can recover because of economy, energy efficiency, equipment that you're doing. There could be a benefit for that. But that's where the indicator, when you say, remember when sometimes people say, I spent $500,000 in upgrading my house. You can see sometime on MLS, 200,000. But when you ask them, give us a piece of paper, they don't have it. You know that? Everybody get in trouble. You cannot claim that you spent $200,000 and you have no proof. And you can get in trouble by doing it. Because there are guidelines that CRA has mentioned that if you do a major overhaul of the house or renovation, it could be sale of the house, could be subject to HST. So this is a good idea to check this out. So that's an indicator. Something is wrong here. Buyer of income generating property shows no interest in generating profit by filing. Now, here's another one. Let's assume you have a buyer. He's an investor. He buys the property, income generating property, but that doesn't make any effort to generate the income. It becomes suspicious. What kind of money that he brought in or has to buy this? Unless he has filed tax return, declared his income. So these are because you need, if you are looking at commercial value, you need to look at the lease and rental value to come up with the cap rate and to find out, is this value of this property is worth for me or not? Because mostly income approach is used for these rental properties when you buy it and rent it. So make sure that you have some positive cash flow, not negative. But if someone is saying, I really don't care, then you have a full indication that he has lots of money and the person who is arranging this is don't care. So that's an indication that something is wrong and suspicious about it. And you have to think about, talk to your complying officer within the brokerage, in the mortgage or in the real estate, so he can report to a FinTrack. The other thing is called income generating. The flow through incoming payments from abroad, possibly linked to a trust account. So let's say money is coming from overseas to a trust account, and follow immediately wire transfer without a logical reason. It come money from overseas into a trust account, then in a couple of days, it transfer out the money. Oh, it's money coming now from Canada. It come to Canada, then it goes back overseas. So this is called money laundering. Oh, we got the money from Canada, because maybe overseas they not be as strict at or monitoring these fraudulent transactions. We have an amazing system here in Canada, best in the world, to track fraud, money laundering. But we have to help them identify those criminals who are destroying our economy, and especially for homeowner, making it difficult to make this home affordable. So that means it's our civic duty to help them, to identify those people. Now, if you bring the money from overseas into Canadian banks and then transfer it out, wire it out, what does that tell you? Why the money came here? If somebody sending money here to invest, the money should be invested here. And they should have a track of funds, where this money came from, who gave the money. And they have a record. The other thing is structure. Multiple transaction involving payments in cash or in negotiable instrument. For example, bank draft, which do not state the true payer. And now this is another one. You're doing multiple transactions. You're being a bank draft. If it's a Canadian bank draft, you know that they write down the name and everything. We get the ID. We know you do that. That's your bank draft. Question is not about the bank draft that you've given. It is, where did you get that money? Was it in your saving account, RSP account? Where is that money coming? You need to provide that. Track of your funding. Where this money came from to buy the property that you're using as a deposit for your purchase. If you have a pay slip, you're making good income, nothing to worry about. Because it's your money, you earn it, you pay taxes on it. There's nothing to worry about. So if people bring you money order instead of a bank draft, because there is no tracking where you bought this money order from Canada Post. Again, if you suspect that there's something is wrong and it meet one of these indicators. These indicators are in real estate. It's called indicators of money laundering in financial transaction related to real estate. This is put together by FinTrack. And geography. Foreign buyer, either an individual or company, or source of fund from a jurisdiction with strict bank secrecy laws, weak anti-money laundering regime, or with a high level of political corruption. Now, you have a foreign buyer, individual or a company, and they are coming from a source of jurisdiction. They're not so strict about privacy, they won't disclose it. And they have no money laundering regime. And because political corruption, lots of people accumulate wealth. They can't declare that income. They have no source. They cannot justify, except that they have the money. So you have to be very, very careful. You can do a transaction as a real estate professional or a mortgage broker. But if you have suspicions about it, then you make sure you talk to your complying officer and report those people. Don't worry about the job, because You don't want to be companion of the problem. Knowing something is wrong and then going along with, you become companion. Our ethic, moral, legal responsibility is if we suspect something, we report it. Inconsistency. Client purchased personal use property through his or her company when this type of transaction is inconsistent with the client's ordinary business practice. Let's assume you want to buy a house for use to live. Why would you get the house through your company? You don't need to go circumvent new system. Personal property, prime residence, matrimonial home is your personal property. Unless the company is doing a business, they are buying and selling, they have inventory, they're home builders. That's a different story. Yes, you can buy company property, but for commercial purposes, for investment or business purpose, but not as a personal residence putting through the company. Sometimes the transactions are carried out on behalf of minors, incapacitated person or other person who, although not included in this category, appears to lack the economic capacity. What they're saying is you have indicated people on the transaction, they have minors, they have some disabilities, they don't have a source of income, and they're suspicious about why so many people putting on the transaction of the property. There's something is wrong. Idea is to explore and watch for the indicators to make sure this is the right thing to do. Sometimes there are family disputes happen, and sometimes the properties are given with parents, brothers and sisters, wife and husband, if they're separating. Idea is to go and verify to make sure this is an arm's length transaction. Sometimes large amount of cash used to fund a financial aspect of a real estate transaction. For example, deposit, down payment, loan, mortgage, cash. This day and age, if somebody's carrying a cash, then something is wrong here. So that's a good indicator for you. Somebody bring you cash. In my real estate business and mortgage brokerage, we don't deal with cash. No employee of my brokerage will ever take cash. We only deal with Canadian banks, bank drafts, or e-transfer to our account from a Canadian source. You need to take precautions to prevent that fraud. Sometimes it happens that you got in a hurry, you got the deal, and possession was taken out, and person took some money and defaulted, couldn't pay the mortgage. So if you have no source of income, you bought $1 million property. If a professional helps you to get the mortgage without proper documentation, there's something wrong here. As a professional, it's our obligation to report those people and not to go along. One transaction is not worth your credentials, your profession, your license. Deny it, refuse it, or help them properly declare income, verify everything, and complete your transaction arm's length. So sometime no payment of interest or repayment of principal. That means you got the mortgage, you got the house, you take a position, and now you're not paying mortgage. That's an indicator that something is wrong. Thing can happen. But these are indicators that someone just wanted to get into the house or maybe borrow some money against line of credit or mortgage, took the money and didn't do it. Place a deposit for a house, renege on the deal. So when somebody put an offer and renege the deal and then obtain a legitimate check, let's assume somebody gave cash money for a deposit on a transaction. And then the money was deposited and he reneged the agreement to purchase a deal. He did not fulfill the mortgage conditions or inspection. Then he will ask the real estate broker to refund their money by check. Very frequently this happens. And then is a valuable, they get their check from the lawyers or the brokerage who's holding all the money. No, here is a very big. FinTrack is saying if there is direct sale or purchase without using a real estate broker or sale agent. They are telling it right here in the FinTrack. That means if you are not using a real estate professional to help you buy or sell the property, your transaction will be suspicious. Because real estate professionals, they spend their day and night, years of experience, knowledge, designations to serve their client better. So there is a suspicion. Oh, when I'm doing a private deal, you never know whether you are getting the real value of your property or not. So they are saying it. FinTrack is saying it. It's an indicator when somebody comes to you for financing. There was no loan agreement between lender and the borrower. What did I tell you? The guy paid cash. Did he has the money? How did he get the money? If he comes to the banking system, FinTrack will track you. They have to prove they have the funding. If they have the funding, legitimate funded, no problem. But they're an indicator. So the other direct is existing mortgage on a purchased property assumed by another individual without involving a financial institution. Here you go. You have an existing mortgage on a property, and the property is purchased, and property is assumed by somebody else who's not on the mortgage or mortgage agreement or with the institution. What they tell you? Somebody else taken assumption of the property without his or her name on the mortgage or refinancing it. Maybe they assign it. But then lender has to know that. Lawyer has to know that, because if you are assuming a mortgage, if you have paid out the money and you are transferring the title of the ownership, then you have to legally do the transfer to protect your investment. But this is the indicator. Something is wrong. The last one is that a financial institution was not involved in the loan structure and may involve multiple unknown investors. So when you are suspected of that there is a financial institution is not involved, multiple investors, because some development project people do a lot of multiple investment. unknown investors. So where is money coming from? And this is what is critical about dealing with the cash money or money laundering, wire transfer without ID. So I'm going to go back, and there's other issue that I want to talk to you. So if you want to get guidance to check out what I read to you, you can call long distance 1-866-346-8722. I repeat the number. 1-866-346-8722 is a FinTrack. You can visit their website and you can get all the information you need. This is the book, FinTrack. So I hope that now, when you are applying for the mortgage, again, we're going to go back. I'm going to talk to you mortgage ID. So when you are buying and selling a property, as a buyer, when you sign an offer, you need to have a FinTrack form. This is TREP form 630. And the agent or mortgage broker, we have a different form that identify the name. We get their legal address, their license number. We have expiry date, profession, everything. And if they don't have a driving license, then we go to credit file, check the credit report. Dual ID mechanism, we check different IDs for them. And source of information, which is your ID. Now, this is to identify, is there an individual, third party is involved? Verification of third party record. Who are those people? If someone is buying the property for somebody else, then what is the risk of money laundering by this transaction by this individual? So there are low risk, medium risk, and this form will tell you that you have to indicate that based on your judgment, is it a business involved? So you have this 4 pages form that we use to verify that. Now, in real estate, we use, this is ID. We talk about a deposit. So deposit, there's a form, ORIA form 635, we use it, where we got the money, check number, bank, cash, currency, date we received it, was a e-transfer, check, certified check, bank draft, wire transfer. And what is the purpose of that deposit? And how this money has been deposited? And how did you receive? If you receive a cash, lots of information to verify. And then we give them a receipt of deposit. Now, if you are doing a mortgage, I think if you have look at my previous episode on Realty Coffee Talk or Mortgage Coffee Talk, you can subscribe to my channel on YouTube and you can watch those episodes. Number one, verification of income. You have a T4, for example, T4As, and notice of assessment. Then you're being an ID, you have a driving license, you have a passport, your social number to verify. You need minimum 2 IDs. Then you have asset, whatever asset you have. Property, it has address, you have ownership, it can be verified. Then you have a cash sitting in your bank. If your family income is reasonably good, then you always will be able to verify the income because you have pay stub, paychecks, they're coming to you and you can provide most recent pay stub. Then it gets you credibility that you are responsible borrower and you have a good credit score, you have paid payments on time, and all the deposits that you made are verified. Fourthly, most important, the property you are buying is negotiated well. It is consistent with the market value prices. Your assessed value through independent appraisal comes very consistent or close to what you paid for. It's verifiable. It's a full and open competition when the property is on MLS. Again, try to avoid cash transactions in real estate or doing a mortgage. Save money to buy a property. You have your own legitimate sources of down payment. Your saving or gift from the parents, it has to be documented. So I hope that today you have learned how important it is to track your money. The government institution, all lenders, they are obligated to report suspicious transactions, especially when you are bringing money from overseas to purchase a property in Canada. Make sure you have documentation to support the funds are coming from the family and their legitimate fund and they're from legitimate resources. So I hope today you have a perspective of real estate broker's responsibility of verifying income and know your client, as we see in the mortgage business. Avoid cash transaction. Today you have learned a lot about our obligation, that we are obligated to report suspicious transactions. So if you notice any of those transactions that comes to you, you not only deny it, but you also report them. Thank you very much for watching Mortgage Coffee Talk. My name is Tahir Qureshi. I'm a principal broker. My license number is MO 8002130. I'm a principal broker of Canada Express Mortgage Inc., license number 13241. I'm also real estate broker record for City Pro Realty Inc. brokerage. My passion is real estate and your success is my priority. Before I end program, I will be available to you next Monday at 7 p.m. We talk about different issues. If you have any interest in any topic, please feel free to comment me and I'd be more than happy to accommodate you. You can watch my previous episode on realtycoffeetalk.com or subscribe to my YouTube channel, Tahir Qureshi, and you will get to watch all the episodes. My goal is to increase awareness and your trust in real estate and mortgage profession. I take this opportunity to thank all health professionals, doctors and nurses, staff, essential services, police officers for their duty to serve fellow Canadians, putting their life on risk to prevent coronavirus spread. We thank you for your help. We appreciate you. May God bless you all. May God bless Canada. Thank you for watching. Bye for now.